When people talk about the failures of the public school system, and even the biggest proponents of the government school system, which is the public school system, admit that the system is currently broken. They often focus on things like mathematics and science, and perhaps rightfully so. Mathematical, scientific aptitude has gone way down. Test scores go down year after year, seemingly no matter what they do to fix the problem. They're always putting more money into the system, right? The politicians say, we need to do something about this. The system is broken. We all know it. I know what we can do. We can put more money into the system. But seemingly the more money that goes into the government education system, the worse and worse the test scores get. So then some politicians come along and say, you know what the problem is? It's not just the money, it's the curriculum. So they jump from curriculum to curriculum. They go from No Child Left Behind to Common Core. And seemingly with each curriculum and the funding going up, the scores still go down and down to the point where, I don't know the numbers exactly, but something like, 50% of the children that come through the government education program aren't able to do basic mathematics. The system is failing on a massive scale. So you say, oh, well, maybe it's the teachers, right? If it's not the curriculum and the funding, well, it has to be the teachers. So over time, you get retirements from the baby boomers, and you have this new generation of teachers, hopeful, enthusiastic, ready to make a difference in the world. And they just came through the universities, which have taught them the most well-studied, peer-reviewed methods of education, of reaching young minds. And these new teachers, they come into the education system, and what happens? The grades go down and down and down. And everyone recognizes that the system is broken, that this is a failure. But what's really tragic is that the basic stuff, mathematics and science, the stuff that should be easy, is such a failure that people are missing the more catastrophic failures. That when we as parents allow our children, when we give our children over to a government-mandated education program, we give the government the minds of our children, and we send them to school 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 10 months a year, for 15 years. We hand them over to the government. We hand our children and their minds, the most precious thing in the world, over to the government, to a system that we know is broken, and we hope we could send them to, quote unquote, a better school. And when they come out of that system, they still don't know math and science, but we give up something even greater because we're so focused on these basic, simple categories. That when we hand our children over for this great amount of time, that we are not spending the time needed to pass our values to our children, to pass over what is important. We see this manifesting itself in the culture war, right? It started out with sexual education, and people said, well, I don't think that the school system should be talking to the children about sexuality. That's something that the parents should talk to the children about. But it's a government-mandated program, and people made the arguments, and the unions made the arguments, and they said, well, not all children have parents, so we need the government to teach sexual education. You thought it would stop there, but then you go to the modern day and you see that now many schools are telling children that, if they're born a boy, you're not a boy, or if they're born a girl, you're not a girl. And maybe as a parent you're okay with that, but I know many parents aren't. And the fact that our children are being taught this in a government-mandated education system, and we're just handing our children over, is Well, it's the height of insanity. We're wondering where our society went, but we're allowing the government to hand down morality and we're not doing it ourselves. But you could take it a step further and you could see the wisdom that our society has lost because we've handed our children over to this government education program. Look at the area of nutrition, right? If you look up statistics in modern America, and this is pretty uniform all over the world, at least in Western civilization. I don't have the exact numbers, but I think we all get the general picture, right? Cancer rates are through the roof. And heart attack rates are through the roof. And more people have diabetes now than ever before. There is a health epidemic going on across the Western world. And part of the reason for this is we've handed our children over to the government education system because the government education system is naturally focused on all the wrong things. They're focused on mandated mathematics and science that they're failing at anyway, and no one is teaching children proper life skills. That's why so many children get out of school and they can't even balance a checkbook. They don't know what a credit card is. They don't know what it means to take out a loan. They don't know what simple interest is versus amortized interest. And this is true across so many areas, but perhaps none more important than the area of nutrition itself, because before children were forced to go to government schools, people would learn about these things. This wisdom would be passed down from grandparents to parents to children. How to properly eat so that you can avoid diabetes, you can avoid a heart attack, you could avoid cancer. And when I get into homeschooling and when I go on my own journey, this is the type of thing that not just mathematics, and we'll talk about how we could incorporate mathematics into everyday life, how we could incorporate science into everyday life, but into teaching about nutrition so that we can recover the wisdom that our ancestors had that has been lost. This way that our children can live safer, better lives, because right now, the government education system, it's not only failing at mathematics, it's not only failing at science, it's failing to teach basic life skills and basic morality. And the result is literally early death in many cases. If you don't learn to eat right, you have a heart attack, you get cancer, you get diabetes. Take a look at what I did today. My wife and I prepared all of this food today with a big tip of my cap to my wife because she really took the lead. And she made everything, even that milk. She grinded up almonds and made that milk herself and washed strawberries and grapes and bananas and everything good to go. Salad that you could grab on the run and the ingredients to put in the salad, the red onion, peas, oranges, full meals, lunch, dinner, egg concoctions for breakfast, avocados, hard-boiled eggs. And this way, no matter what happens during the week, we'll be able to eat healthy. The government education system has failed to teach nutrition the same way it's failed to teach mathematics and science, but the cost is catastrophically greater. Because the cost of not understanding nutrition is the potential of dying 30, 40, 50 years before you should. And how do you measure that? What is the value of an education that could prevent someone from dying of heart disease or cancer or diabetes or any other nutrition-related disease in their 30s, 40s, or 50s when all they would have had to do is eat healthy and they could have lived to be 80, 90, 100 years old? The cost truly is immeasurable, not only to the individual, but to society as a whole. How many great people perished before their time because we refuse to break the cycle of insanity, sending our children, having their minds formed, our most precious assets, our children's minds, formed by a system that is proven time and time again, decade after decade, to be a failure. You say, well, why don't the parents teach their children about nutrition? Because the parents themselves and their parents and their parents, for generations now, have come through this same broken system, which incentivizes not passing down wisdom as wisdom used to be passed down. So instead, parents who have come through the same education system wake up early in the morning, maybe they work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., maybe they work 2 jobs, and they're always in a rush. And what is their priority? To chase the paycheck, which, oh, by the way, they're not making that much money because, like we said, they don't know math, they don't know science. So they wake up in the morning and they don't have time for breakfast. And their children see this. Maybe for lunch they have a bar. Maybe they go to Burger King. Maybe they go to McDonald's. Maybe they're awake enough not to eat that type of garbage, but what do? Dinner time comes, well, I'm too tired to cook, right? So they order from a restaurant, but all of these restaurants are loading the food in oil. The food's not organic. The food has Roundup and pesticides sprayed all over it. It's loaded with sugar. It's loaded with salt. The restaurant just wants you to like the food, so you order more of it. And again, the result is a lot of people dying before they should, but it's also sending a different message to the children. That the priority should be the chasing of career, the chasing of money, before making sure that your health is in order. But you can have the most successful career in the world, you can have all of the money in the world, but if your health fails, you won't get to enjoy any of it. But that wisdom has been taken away from parents, and therefore it's not being passed down to children. And that is the value of homeschooling. The passing down of wisdom. Slowing down. Now, I said that my wife and I were the ones who put the meals together today. First, because part of homeschooling is leading by example. My child's currently under 1 year of age, and he will see us planning and taking nutrition just as seriously as we take our careers. And then he'll understand the importance of that. But then when you talk about curriculum, everything that goes in to planning these daily routines, a child taking the lead, figuring out what food is nutritional, what food has nutritional value. Do you need to have nuts? Do you need to have fruit? Do you need to have vegetables? How much meat should you have? How many carbs should you have? What are the ingredients in the foods? A lot of planning can go into this. How much does the food cost? Mathematics, real world mathematics, how to work a budget, how to balance a checkbook. You could even talk to your children about history, how the food pyramid was basically turned upside down. How many people don't eat organic, yet a court of law ruled that glyphosate, the primary ingredient in Roundup, which is sprayed on most of our fruits and vegetables, if they're not organic, even if they are, sadly, causes cancer. That was found in a court of law. So you could talk about mathematics, you could talk about balancing a checkbook, you could talk about history, you could develop leadership skills. And when the child doesn't need you anymore, leadership skills can become independent skills. Have your child plan out what the family should eat for the week. Have your child plan out the budget. Because this promotes real life skills. Because what we're seeing in the modern government public education system is the raising of children. But the objective of homeschooling is the raising of an adult. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please share this link. I hope this helped. If you wanted to support me financially, you can do so for as little as $1 monthly at www.patreon.com/FFRnews. And as always, power to the individual, and long live liberty.